This video is to help you understand the expectations of the philosophy of education assignment that you'll be submitting towards the end of this semester. A philosophy of education is something that describes your personal beliefs and attitudes regarding the development and learning of young children, and how you'll support that development and learning as an early childhood professional. And you do this by applying your knowledge of child development in developmentally appropriate practice. Your philosophy is something that's going to be shaped through your understanding of child development, as well as the history, the research, the theory, and the best practices that have shaped the field. And it's also shaped through your experience. So this initial philosophy of education that you will be writing is something that will be an evolving philosophy. What you feel now is probably going to be different than what you feel in a few years after you've had some experience and further education and training in the field of education. So again, a philosophy is a very personal statement about your beliefs, and so again, everybody's philosophy of education is going to be a little bit different. But within your philosophy, I do want to see you being able to apply the concepts that we're learning throughout the course of this semester and apply those to your beliefs as well, because we all develop our beliefs about teaching through the things that we have learned and experienced. And so as you're learning and experiencing different things throughout the semester, learning about early childhood education and what it means to be an early childhood professional, that's going to help to develop your core values about teaching, and that will impact your philosophy of education. And so what I want to do is just go over how you're going to structure your philosophy of education. This is the guidelines that's provided within your syllabus. Excuse me. So again, I just kind of broke this down to let you know exactly what you're going to need to write about. So the first thing you're going to write about is describing your beliefs about young children as learners. So again, what do you believe about young children as learners? The second thing, describe your beliefs about the role of the early childhood teacher. So the first paragraph, you're discussing what you believe as children and their role as learners. And in the second paragraph, you're going to start to discuss what you believe about your role or the role of an early childhood teacher. And there's some subsets under the role of the early childhood teacher. And those include the early childhood teacher as a facilitator of learning. So that just means, what do you believe is your role as you support and guide children in their learning? The second one is an observer and assessor. So again, within the course of this semester, we will talk about observation and assessment. And so again, what do you believe your role or the teacher's role is as someone who observes and assesses the students in the classroom? The next one is as a nurturer of relationships and social emotional needs. We talked about, or will be talking about, that the impact of positive relationships with students. And so again, what do you believe about that? The next one is as a supporter of diverse cultural and academic needs. As you think about your classroom dynamics, you're going to see that it's made up of children that come from many different cultures and many different ethnic backgrounds. And so how are you going to support them in that diversity? And what do you feel the role of the teacher is in supporting that diversity in the classroom? And then the last subset for number 2 is as a partner with families. Again, what do you believe the early childhood teacher's role is when it comes to being a partner with families? And so again, even though so many of these subsets come with research that we've been learning about throughout the course of this semester, these are also going to be impacted. Your beliefs are also going to be impacted by your experiences and just what you feel about these things. And so I want to see both. I want to see what your opinions are, what your beliefs are, but I also want to see some of that application of research that you've been learning about to support that. Number 3 says discuss the theories that have shaped and impacted your philosophy of education. So again, go back to thinking about which theorists are really starting to shape your views on the philosophy of education. Number 4, discuss how current research or public policy on early childhood has shaped and imparted your philosophy of education. So again, this might be some things that you're learning about when it comes to the research on early childhood, some of the research on, the importance of relationships, maybe research on brain development, research on different curriculum. So what are some things that you have been learning about or hearing about that have really started to impact your philosophy and your beliefs based on the research that's coming out recently about the importance of early childhood education? Number 5, discuss how developmentally appropriate practice has impacted and shaped your philosophy. Again, developmentally appropriate practice is that term that was developed by ECE quite some time ago. The position statement behind that talks about what developmentally appropriate practice looks like and how that can be implemented in the classroom, how classroom environments and curriculum can be shaped through applying those principles of developmentally appropriate practice. Again, how has that started to shape your philosophy of education? Number 6, how will you model a professional code of ethics? Again, you've read through the ECE's Code of Ethical Conduct and looked at what that should look like in a classroom. Not all early childhood programs follow ECE's Code of Ethical Conduct, but again, as an early childhood professional, you are going to follow a code of ethics, some code of ethics, whether it's ECE's or some guidelines that your employer has set out, or just personal ethical standards. So how will you model that? How will you model that, high character? How will you model those positive ethics and those things that you believe in your programs? Number 7, how will you uphold confidentiality in your program, and why is that important to maintain? Again, this is something that we didn't specifically talk about this semester, or won't specifically talk about this semester, but again, how will you uphold that, and why is it important to maintain confidentiality within your program? And number 8, how will you ensure that you don't reflect bias in your program and work to maintain an attitude of fairness? Again, this is something that's important. It also kind of goes hand in hand with, that the professional ethical code that you're upholding. So again, how will you make sure that you're not reflecting an attitude of bias, making sure that your own bias and prejudice doesn't show through within your program, to make sure that your program is completely fair. And then the last one, number 9, how will you involve yourself in professional organizations, and why is it important to your professional development? As an early childhood professional, you don't just get a degree and stop learning. You have to involve yourself in research and training, ongoing training, and professional development to help continue to stay current on the trends and the information in early childhood, to make sure that you're constantly providing best practices for the students in your program. And so how will you involve yourself in that? What do you think that looks like for you? When it comes down to the written work to outline your paper, so each of those outline points that I just went through, 1 through 9, and even the subsets of number 2, you're going to section those into separate paragraphs. So each of those different talking points is a different paragraph, so make sure that they're clearly discussed within your paper. Your paper should be about 4 to 6 pages long. Again, it might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but I'm thinking with all the content that you have to discuss within this paper, it's going to be about 4 to 6 pages. With my experience with this assignment, that's about the page number that it's going to take for you to reflect on these points of your philosophy of education. Again, college level writing is expected, so pay attention to your spelling, grammar, overall organization in your sentence structure. If you're someone that struggles with writing, then I encourage you to go to the Writing Center at Harper College and have them look over your paper and help you to make sure that it's organized and written in a way that reflects college level writing. Any research that you happen to use within your paper, make sure that you cite it appropriately using APA format. And then again, if you've discussed all the outline points in detail and accurately supported your beliefs with research, you have covered all the required components of the grading rubric. One last thing I just wanted to mention, whenever you're writing your paper, you're going to want to use these belief statements. I believe this, I believe that. Because again, it is your personal philosophy of education. So whenever you're going into detail about your beliefs, you're going to want to start your paragraph saying, I believe this, or my beliefs reflect that. So again, it needs to have a personal feel to it. I don't want it to read like a research paper. I want this to be personal, on the aspects of early childhood, the research, your experience, the things that you've read about. I want it to be those things that have impacted you, that have really resonated with you, and those are what you're reflecting in your initial philosophy of education. Like I mentioned before, This is probably the first time you've written a philosophy of education. So again, if it still feels a little bit strange, if you're not really sure about how you feel about some of this stuff, that's okay right now. It's going to be a developing philosophy as you continue to grow in your profession and gain more experience in education. So again, if you have questions about any of these areas that you're supposed to be discussing, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and find out some additional clarification to help you, because I want to make sure that you're successful in this assignment. But again, it should be a personal philosophy of education. So make sure that it is what you believe. And take some time to think about it before you start writing to really make sure that you're able to reflect your beliefs within your paper. But again, if you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Thanks so much and good luck.